What if I told you Doctor Who's biggest problem is that it's never been rebooted? Look, Batman has, James Bond has, Spider-Man has, Superman has. Every major franchise eventually accepts a simple truth. Sometimes you just have to start again. But Doctor Who never has. And I think that's why the BBC is now asking the biggest question in the show's history. Look, there's no Disney, no Bad Wolf, no Christmas special, no future plan. It's not even out to tender yet. Oh, by the time you watch this, it has gone out to tender, so just completely ignore me. But for the first time since 2005, Doctor Who has the chance to do something it has never had the courage to do before. Start again. Not a soft reboot, not another jumping on point, a genuine hard reboot. And before you panic, no, I'm not talking about erasing Doctor Who, I'm talking about saving Doctor Who. Because for decades, Doctor Who has been the great exception in franchise storytelling. While Batman, Bond, Superman and countless other franchises have reinvented themselves for generations with hard reboots, Doctor Who has tried to solve its biggest problem, its own spiraling contradictory history, with a series of soft reboots. But it's a promise the show can never actually keep. Okay, so let's play a game. It's called Explain Doctor Who to a Normal Person, okay? So there's an alien called the Doctor. They're a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Cerberus, and they can change their body when they're about to die. Simple enough, right? Except the first Doctor isn't the first Doctor. He's preceded by the Timeless Child, a secret pre-First Doctor version who was the genetic blueprint for the entire Time Lord race, and she lived countless lives that were erased from her memory until she met her 13th incarnation, which is the sort of sentence that should immediately concern you. Imagine starting a new Batman movie by first explaining 1940 serials. This is why soft reboots fail. Okay, let's try another. The Doctor can only regenerate 12 times. This was the central drama of the time of the Doctor. The Doctor was out of lives, but was granted a new set of regenerations by the Time Lords. Except now we know he's the Timeless Child who has infinite regenerations. So that entire story is rendered meaningless. So most recently, the Doctor didn't regenerate, he bigenerated, splitting into two people. The new Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, flew away while the old one, David Tennant, retired. An ex-showrunner at the time, Russell T Davies, implied that bigeneration happened retroactively to all the previous incarnations, meaning all previous Doctors might also be living in a cosmic retire home somewhere. This isn't worldbending. This is a fortress of lore built to keep everyone out. Every new shocking revelation is another brick in the wall, making it hostile to the one thing the show needs to survive: new viewers. This is why soft reboots always collapse under the weight of the past. Other franchises don't have this problem. They understand the power of a fresh start. Doctor Who fans often confuse continuity with identity. Take Spider-Man. He's been rebooted 3 times on film in the last, 20 years? We went from Tobey Maguire to Andrew Garfield to Tom Holland. Each time the core idea remained the same, but the continuity was reset. But nobody complains. Look at Batman as well. We've had Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck, and Robert Pattinson. Different continuities, different tones, all Batman. Fans accept it because it allows the character to be reinterpreted for a new generation. James Bond. Sean Connery isn't Daniel Craig. The goofy invisible car from Die Another Day has no bearing on the grounded grit of Casino Royale. The timeline resets, the character is reborn. Even Superman, Christopher Reeve's classic films, exist completely separate from Henry Cavill's, which exists completely separate from the new James Gunn universe. Nobody argues that Tom Holland has to be the same person as Tobey Maguire. So why is Doctor Who the only franchise terrified of doing this? It treats its own 60-year history not as a library of stories, but as a prison sentence. The entire argument for a reboot rests on one simple fact, and we've done this before. And it worked. When Russell T Davies brought it back in 2005, he didn't try to continue the old show. He was introducing Doctor Who to a new generation, most of whom have never seen William Hartnell, John Pertwee, or Sylvester McCoy before. So he simplified everything. The Time Lords, gone. Wiped out in a Time War that happened off screen. The complicated backstory reduced to a single sentence. I'm the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey, the constellation of Cerberus. The Doctor, he was the last of his kind, a lonely survivor running from his past. It was brilliant. It gave the show a powerful emotional core without requiring a single piece of homework. New viewers could start with Christopher Eccleston on day 1 and understand everything they needed to know. And the irony is that the greatest era in Doctor Who history was built on reboot principles. It gave the Doctor a fresh start. Most people watching Rose in 2005 had never seen a classic Doctor Who episode before, and it didn't matter. But here's the frustrating thing. That same showrunner who understood the power of a reboot in 2005 just accidentally created the perfect reboot mechanism in the present day and then blinked. I am talking about by generation, not controversial at all, but in the 60th anniversary special, The Giggle, the Doctor splits in two, giving the show its cleanest break in history. That was the perfect off-ramp. The first time ever, the original Doctor got a definitive ending. The 14th Doctor, played once again by David Tennant, gets to retire. He gets a family, he gets to stay on Earth and process 60 years of trauma and maybe even become a curator of a gallery. Who knows? It's a beautiful final conclusion to the entire 1963 to now character arc. The Doctor, the one who ran away, finally gets a rest. And this was the perfect on-ramp for the 15th Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, flying off in his TARDIS. He is, for all intents and purposes, a new man. He's free, he carries the memories, but not the trauma. He's unburdened by the Time War, the Timeless Child, and the endless goodbyes. 14 got an ending, 15 got a beginning. That was it. The perfect moment. Russell T Davies solved the problem. And then he immediately unsolved it. They even called the new season Season 1, and it could have been a genuine, real Season 1, a true hard reboot. But they panicked and they just didn't take it. The season was called Season 1, but it was just Season 40. Season 1 should never require 39 previous seasons' knowledge. Instead of freedom, we had probably the most lore-heavy season since 2005's return. Unit, Mel, Susan, Sutek, the Schalke Doctor for some reason. Russell T Davies built a brand new door and then immediately boarded it up with 60 years of continuity. He created the perfect reboot and then refused to pull the trigger. The failure to truly reboot isn't just a creative problem though, it's becoming an existential one. That landmark deal with Disney, which massively increased the show's budget, putting it in the same league as like, Mandalorian and Loki. But when you have that much money, you spend that much money, you're expected to deliver a massive mainstream global audience. But the relaunch didn't significantly grow the audience at all. After the hype of the 60th anniversary, Ncuti Gatwa's first full season marketed as that fresh start, so his viewership in the UK dropped to some of the lowest in the show's modern history. Globally as well, the performance was muted, shall we say. And by the end of season 2, the Disney deal was over. I mean, we still haven't seen the war between the land and the sea. And look, the BBC didn't put Doctor Who out to tender because everything was going brilliantly. This creates a production paradox. Look, the show now costs too much for it to be the modest success it currently is. But on its own, continuity has made it almost impossible to attract that huge new audience. It needs to justify that budget. So here's the central problem in a single sentence. Doctor Who keeps trying to recruit new viewers with old continuity. It's like asking someone to start the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but with Avengers Endgame. And I mean, how many people do you know now have just given up on the MCU because there's too much to watch or missed the Disney Plus show? Look, at this point, you might be thinking, yeah, but Doctor Who isn't Batman, it's different. And you're absolutely right to feel that way. Fans hate the idea of reboots because they're emotionally invested. They fear that a reboot will erase the history that they love, that the stories that they grow up with will suddenly not count. And the word reboot sounds scary. It sounds like a threat. But that's a misunderstanding of what a reboot actually does. The old stories, they still exist. They are always there. The film Casino Royale didn't reach back in time and erase Goldfinger. You can still watch Sean Connery right now. Batman Begins didn't delete Michael Keaton from existence. A Doctor Who reboot wouldn't erase David Tennant or Tom Baker or Jodie Whittaker. Their episodes, their books, their audio dramas would all still be there. A complete 60-year library of finished stories. A reboot doesn't burn the old books, it simply starts a new one. And that's what brings us to today. This is the real world reason this conversation matters right now. Most fans see this as a crisis. I see it as an opportunity. This is the perfect moment to make the big change. For the first time since the show returned in 2005, there is no future plan. Like, consider the current state of Doctor Who. No Russell T Davies as showrunner, no Bad Wolf as the production company, no Disney co-production deal or any co-production deal, no Christmas special on the schedule, the script was never written. So for the first time since 2005, Doctor Who doesn't have a home. The entire creative and production engine of Doctor Who has ground to a halt completely. This isn't a standard break between seasons. This is a full system stop. If Doctor Who was ever going to do a hard reboot, if there was ever a moment to press the big red button and start completely fresh, it's right now. The old TARDIS has been disassembled. The question for the BBC and for whoever wins the tender to make the show is, do you want to rebuild the exact same struggling TARDIS, or do you want to build a better one? So what does a real reboot look like? Well, imagine discovering Doctor Who for the first time again and being genuinely surprised. That thrill of unknown. Imagine watching episode 1 and genuinely not knowing what the Doctor is. You cast a brilliant new Doctor, you give them a brilliant new companion, and you put them in a mysterious blue box that's bigger on the inside, and that's it. That's all you explain. Where's the Doctor from? We don't know. How does the box travel in time and space? Well, we don't know. Can they die? We don't know. Imagine the next great Doctor Who monster not having a Wikipedia page older than some viewers. Instead of a lecture on the Time War, imagine discovering the rules of this new universe alongside the companion for the very first time. You make the Doctor a mystery again. You don't focus on what goes away, you focus on what returns. Mystery, adventure, wonder. The Doctor becomes unknowable again. Tell small but brilliant self-contained stories, a haunted house on a distant moon, a moral dilemma in a future city, a historical figure with a strange secret. You rebuild the mythology from the ground up. Look, Batman survived reboots, Bond survived reboots, Spider-Man survived reboots, Superman survived reboots. So maybe Doctor Who survives because of 1, 2. Because Doctor Who's greatest strength was never its continuity. It was never Gallifrey, it was never the Time Lords, the Daleks, it was never the law. Its greatest strength is the idea. A strange traveller, a blue box, the whole universe waiting outside the door. Doctor Who doesn't need another regeneration, it needs a new beginning. And for the first time in 20 years, it finally has the chance to get one. So I'd love to know, if you were handed the keys to the TARDIS tomorrow, would you continue the story or would you just simply start again? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video and want more deep dives into Doctor Who, filmmaking and the future of film and television, make sure you like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching and I'll see you on the next one.